Welcome to The Jeweler's View. I'm Courtney Gray. I've spent nearly 30 years in this industry, running schools, doing custom work, coaching, consulting, and working with makers at all stages. Over time, I've started to see the patterns, the things that actually move a creative career forward, and the things that can quietly hold it back. I built this podcast to cut through the noise, less time in your head or down the research rabbit hole, and more time building something real. Let's get into it. One of the questions I get asked more than almost anything else is, Courtney, do I need a business page? My answer might catch people off guard. The answer is maybe, but probably not yet if you're just getting started. Not if you're creating one because someone on Instagram told you that's what a real business should do. Here's what I see happening a lot. People leave a room full of people who already know them to go stand in a room full of strangers. Then they wonder why nobody's talking. Welcome back to The Jeweler's View. I'm Courtney Gray. Today, I want to continue our conversation about visibility, not marketing, visibility. I found myself using that word more and more lately because I think it describes what we're actually trying to do. Most of us aren't trying to become internet celebrities. We're trying to help the right people discover our work. That's visibility. Somewhere along the way, visibility became incredibly complicated. Instagram wants your attention. Facebook wants your attention. TikTok, Threads, YouTube, Google. Your website needs updating. Your newsletter hasn't gone out. A gallery wants images, a show application is due next Friday, and somewhere in the middle of all that, you're supposed to sit down and actually make jewelry. It's no wonder people feel overwhelmed. Now, honestly, I don't think most makers have a visibility problem. I think they have a capacity problem. Those are two different things. I remember when Creative Side Jewelry Academy started growing. Some of you listening probably remember those years. Every few months, there was another platform that everyone swore would change everything. You have to get on Twitter. Pinterest is where everyone is going for creative stuff. You need a blog. Video is the future. Facebook pages are changing business. Every conversation seemed to end with one more thing we should be doing. And for a while, we believed it. I kept thinking, if we just add one more platform, we'll reach more people. Then one day it hit me. Every platform I added came with an invisible invoice. Not necessarily money, but time, attention, creative energy, and maintenance. Comments to answer, messages to return, content to create, algorithms to learn and relearn every day. Every yes had a hidden no. If I said yes to another platform, I was automatically saying no to something else. Maybe it was curriculum development. Maybe it was serving the students. Maybe it was time with my family. Maybe it was simply having enough creative energy left to think. That was the moment my perspective had to change. Instead of asking, where else should we be? I started asking, where are people already finding us? So let's go back to the question that started today's episode. Do I need a business page? Maybe, eventually, but not always today. It's not a deal breaker. And certainly not just because somebody online said you should have one. Instead, let me ask you a different question. Where are people already paying attention? Because that's where I'd start. If your personal Facebook page has 600 friends, and those 600 people have watched you learn this craft, watched you take classes, watched you celebrate your first piece or your first sale, watched you set up your first booth at a show maybe. Why would you walk away from that? Why start over with a business page that has 11 followers and no conversation happening? That doesn't make too much sense to me. Stay where you're already visible. That's honestly one of the simplest pieces of advice that I could give. Visibility isn't about impressing strangers. It's about staying connected to people who already know that you're there. I hear something else all the time. People almost whisper it. Most of my customers are friends and family. And they say it like they somehow failed. I want you to think about who those people are. They've watched your journey. They've seen you doubt yourself. They've watched you stay up late finishing pieces. They've celebrated every little milestone right alongside you. Honestly, they're your biggest fans. Why wouldn't they be your first collectors? In fact, I'd argue they're exactly who should be buying first. Let them wear your work. Let them post about it. Let them tell people where they bought it. Let them share your success, your excitement. Let them comment on your posts. Every one of those little moments creates visibility that you can never buy with advertising. Word of mouth has always been one of the most powerful marketing tools in the world. Actually, I shouldn't even call it marketing. It's trust. People trust people, always have. Long before social media, long before websites, long before algorithms decided what anyone gets to see. Most successful creative businesses don't begin with thousands of followers. They begin with a handful of people who genuinely believe in the maker. And that's enough, more than enough, because those people become the storytellers. They become ambassadors. They become the people who introduce your work to somebody else. That's how so many businesses quietly begin. Not with a viral reel, but with one person saying, "You should really see my friend's work." The internet has convinced us that growth always comes from reaching more people. I'm not sure that's entirely true. I think healthy growth usually starts by serving the people who are already paying attention. And once you've built a rhythm there, then expand. Not because you're afraid of missing out, but because you've built enough capacity to care for another room full of people. So, if we're not trying to be everywhere, what are we trying to build? Inside Transform, we do spend quite a bit of time talking about visibility. And over the years, I found myself coming back to a very simple framework, not 7 platforms, not some complicated marketing funnel, just 3 jobs your visibility needs to do: discover, deepen, and land. That's it. Every visibility strategy, whether you're a one-person studio or a much larger business, is really trying to accomplish those 3 things. First, where do people discover you? Where do they first find your work? Maybe it's Instagram. Maybe it's your personal Facebook page. Maybe it's a local art show. Maybe it's a gallery. Maybe another collector tells a friend. Maybe they hear you somewhere like here on a podcast. There isn't one right answer. The important thing is recognizing where new relationships are actually beginning. The second job is deepen. Once someone discovers you, how do they get to know you? How do they begin trusting you? Maybe they join your email list. Maybe they follow along on social media. Maybe they stop by your booth every year at the same show. Maybe they begin seeing your work consistently somewhere local in a boutique or a gallery. Trust doesn't usually happen the first time someone sees your jewelry. It grows over time through familiarity, through consistency, through little moments that kind of stack on top of each other. And then the third job, land. When someone finally decides, "I think I'm ready," where do they go? Your website? Is it an Etsy shop? Your gallery? Your studio? Your next show? You don't need 5 different places for people to buy. You need one clear place. One place that feels welcoming. One place that's easy to understand. One place that says you're in the right spot. That's all we're really trying to build. 3 simple jobs: discover, deepen, land. Now, could you eventually have a business Facebook or Instagram page? Absolutely. You can actually turn your personal page into a business page. Could you eventually be on Pinterest? Sure. Could YouTube become part of your strategy someday? Maybe. I'm not against any of those things. I just think that timing matters. I see makers trying to build a 5-platform business before they've built a 1-platform rhythm. It's a little like deciding you need 5 gardens before you figured out how to care for one or what the soil looks like. Every new platform needs tending. It needs attention. It needs fresh content. It needs responses and maintenance. None of those things are bad. They just cost something. And if you're a one-person business, you're paying that bill yourself. One of the things I love about independent jewelers is how ambitious they are. You're curious. You're willing to learn. You're willing to try new things. These are wonderful qualities. But ambition has a shadow side. Sometimes we confuse more with better. More platforms, more reels, more newsletters, more products, more shows, more followers, more. At some point, more starts stealing from the better. I'd rather see you post consistently on one platform for 1 year than disappear from 6. I'd rather see you send one thoughtful newsletter every month than promise a weekly one that you'll resent writing and drop off. I'd rather see you have meaningful conversations with 10 collectors than chase 10,000 followers who never become customers. That's not thinking small. That's thinking sustainability. One of the things I say in coaching quite a bit is this: businesses don't grow because they get busier. They grow because they become easier to repeat. Read that again in your mind for a second. Businesses don't grow because they get busier. They grow because they become easier to repeat. They become consistent. That's what systems do. That's what consistency does. That's what rhythm does. In visibility, it's no different. If every week you know exactly where you're showing up, who you're talking to, and why, it stops feeling like marketing. It starts feeling like a conversation. And here's something I've learned after working with thousands of jewelers over the years. The people who eventually build remarkable businesses aren't always the most talented. They're rarely the loudest one in the room. They aren't necessarily the people with the biggest audience either. They're the ones who keep showing up consistently, patiently. They make another piece. They send another email. They do another show. They answer another customer's question. They keep another promise to themselves. Visibility is not one big giant moment. It's hundreds of ordinary moments stacked together over years. That's why I don't want you worrying so much about where everyone else is showing up. I want you thinking about where you can show up consistently. Because consistency builds familiarity, familiarity builds trust, and trust is what people buy. So here's your bench note for this week. Take out a piece of paper and write down every place you're currently trying to be visible. Instagram, Facebook, your personal Facebook, Pinterest, TikTok, your website, newsletter, shows, galleries, wherever it is. Now, beside each one, ask yourself one simple question. Is this helping people discover me, deepen their trust, or land somewhere to buy? If it isn't doing one of those 3 jobs, it may not deserve your attention right now. And if it does, ask yourself one more question. Can I realistically maintain this 6 months from now? Not next Tuesday, 6 months from now. Because the best visibility strategy isn't the most impressive one. It's the one you'll still be doing a year from today. I'll leave you with one final thought. Don't leave a room full of people who already believe in you just to go chase a room full of strangers. Build where trust already exists. Let your friends become your first collectors. Let your family become your biggest cheerleaders. Let your early customers become storytellers. Then, when your business has the capacity, open another door. Visibility doesn't have to happen everywhere. It just has to happen somewhere often enough that people remember you. In the end, people don't collect jewelry from businesses that they've seen once. They collect from makers that they've come to know over time. As we wrap up today, I wanted to share something that's been on my mind. If you've been listening over the past several episodes, you've noticed these conversations have started shifting just a little. We're still talking about pricing, visibility, systems, and building successful businesses. But underneath all that, we've also been talking about something else: who we're becoming while we build them. After 25 years in this industry, I've realized the work isn't just learning how to make better jewelry or build stronger business. It's continuing to evolve as creative people, learning when to push, when to rest, when to let go of ideas that no longer fit, and how to keep creating through all the different seasons life hands us. These conversations have become so important to me that they've inspired something new. On September 9th, this year, 2026, I'm going to be hosting a free online gathering called Evolving Creatively. It's a day of conversations, kind of a mini summit with some artists and leaders in our industry. It's all centered around reinvention, resilience, creativity, and what it means to continue growing over a lifetime of making. If today's conversation resonated with you, I think you'll feel right at home there. You can learn more and reserve your spot on my website soon, CourtneyGrayArts.com, or reach out. I'll send you the link. I would love to have you join us. Now, if this episode made you rethink where you're putting your energy, I would love to hear from you. Come find me on Instagram or Facebook at Courtney Gray Arts and tell me, where are you choosing to stay visible this season? Until next time, keep making, keep sharing, and keep trusting that showing up consistently will always take you farther than trying to show up everywhere. Onward and upward, my friend. Until next week. Talk to you then. I'm glad you're here. This path takes a lot, especially when you're building something of your own. If you want to go deeper, I share key takeaways and additional teaching through my email list at CourtneyGrayArts.com. Keep going. This part matters. I'll see you next week.
Singing bowls and stories untold. Yeah, here's to the dreams and how we make them, to howling at the moon, to worries and loss, sitting in solitude, feeling a little bit pissed off. Here's to the grace we have awakened,